Okay, your speaker today is my older sister, Brenda Hickson. She is a senior project manager for Ridgemont Construction, Commercial Construction Company.
Just tell the Thompsons.
Except ask her where she's from.
Where am I from? I'm from Texas now. I grew up in Nebraska. Went to high school in Nebraska, college in Lincoln, UNL, and then I just started moving around. So I am a project manager for a commercial construction company, and what I do is oversee the building of buildings such as car dealerships, grocery stores, hospitals, medical facilities, pretty much anything and everything except for houses and apartments, because that is considered residential construction and I do commercial. The difference, if you're wondering, between residential and commercial is residential is typically wood frame, such as a lot of most all houses, whereas commercial construction is steel framed, like you see on the photo here. I got started in construction actually by accident. My main goal was to become an architect, and that kind of also was sort of an accident. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was in high school. Bye, Cheerio. That's my younger sis. And her dog. So when I was in high school, I think it was my freshman year, as part of my Spanish class, we were supposed to draw our design home. And because I always liked house floor plans and designs, I was pretty meticulous about it. And my Spanish teacher noticed and referred me on to our mechanical drafting teacher. Totally unrelated to what I do now, but that's kind of the beauty of how things work out sometimes. So I enrolled in some mechanical drafting classes and did little things like gears and boxes and odd little things like that. And I found I really enjoyed it. So when it came time to pick what I was going to go to college for, I was like, well, I like houses, I like floor plans, this is fun. I'll go to school to be an architect. About my junior year of college, I realized that really wasn't what I was good at. So I kept going, excuse me, got my degree because I had a scholarship and I had a commitment and I had to pay the money back. So I finished my degree, got a Bachelor of Science in Architecture from UNL, and then went on to pay off my loan in the government. And what I did for the government was I built things, or I blew them up, or I built them and then blew them up. So it was kind of fun, and that's kind of how I got started in the world of construction. I really enjoyed that. I like being able to go outside and look at projects, as well as if I wanted to work in the office, I could stay in the office and do paperwork, do schedules, budgets, do planning. But if the sun was shining and it was really nice outside and I just wanted to go enjoy outside, I'd go jump in my truck and I'd go travel to some of the job sites that we were working on, and I'd go inspect the job sites. But as is most things, as you get promoted and you move on, you move up, you have less opportunity to do things you really enjoy. So when I got my loans paid back, I decided to get out and join the civilian world and go do what I enjoyed, which was managing projects in construction. And that's kind of how I ended up doing what I'm doing now. I live currently in Texas, in a town between Dallas and Fort Worth, and that's where our construction company's office is located, in Irving, Texas. However, we build projects in Oklahoma, all over Texas, Louisiana, and we're also licensed, I believe now, in Tennessee, Colorado, and I think New Mexico. Most of our work, though, is Texas, Oklahoma area. And as I said before, we do a variety of projects. Some of the ones that I'm working on right now are, have two grocery stores, one in Irving, Texas, Las Colinas area, one in Austin, Texas, north side of Austin, and one in Denton, Texas. So all three of them right now are grocery stores, but I've been doing a lot of medical offices. Some of the things that I do on a daily basis, construction projects kind of follow a cycle. There's a project cycle, where at the beginning of the job, I'm really busy and there's a lot of stuff to do in a very short period of time. And then it kind of slows, tapers down as the job's underway. And then again, at the end of the project, it ramps up a little bit because there's a lot of things to do to close out the construction process and collect all the paperwork, transfer that building over to the property owner or the tenant that's going to occupy it. There's also a monthly cycle in construction that we follow. Usually at the beginning of the month, I'm processing a lot of pay applications from our subcontractors and the trades and the vendors. And then again, at the end of the month, I'm doing owner pay applications so that we get paid. I'm also doing financial projections. And then in the middle of the month, it's kind of business as usual if there is such a thing in construction. On a daily basis, when I go into the office, I make my little list of things that I have to do and my priorities. But most of the time, by the time I get to the office, 2 phone calls later, that's totally out the window and I'm on a completely different track. So you have to be able to adjust. If you're the kind of person that likes to go off of a little plan and 15-minute increments and this is what you're doing at this time of the day, construction's probably not a really good thing for you to do in the office. Probably not so much out in the field too if you're actually hands-on. One of the good things about construction though is that it is a field that you can go into regardless of whether you like sitting in an office environment and working with contracts, financials, paperwork, or if you're more inclined to use your hands and you like to build stuff and actually see it as a product when you're done doing something. On any particular job, there's, I would say, an average of about 15 different trades. I work for a general contractor, so my company doesn't do the actual work itself. What we are responsible for is to coordinate the owners, the developers, the design team, all the different trades, which is the mechanics, the plumbers, the electricians, the framers, the drywallers, the structural steel company, the door frame hardware suppliers, the flooring installers, the painters. We coordinate all of that. We don't physically do the work ourselves, but we get all those people lined up. We issue contracts to all of those companies. We oversee their work and we manage that whole process. So if you have a particular interest in a trade, say if you're more inclined for interior design, you could work for a design firm, you could work for a paint supplier company, you could work for a painting company that handles all the finishes of the job, or if you're more interested in basically a down and dirty job, welder. Welding pays good, but it is a hot, sweaty, dirty, hazardous job, but they get paid good. So there's trade-offs. Plus, you're outside. If you're doing the trades, you're outside a lot. If you enjoy being outside, there's a plus. The drawback to that is, for example, if you work in Nebraska, you notice the home building, the building, construction building, a little more uneven in the winter just because of the weather we have here. Whereas where I live, we go pretty much year round. We do have more of a rainy season in the spring. So if you're an hourly worker, you save your money because you're not guaranteed 40 hours, 50, 60 hours a week. The other drawback to working hourly, especially in my market where I'm at right now, is construction is hot. We have crews working 6, 7 days a week.
Like, what's the temperature in Dallas like during the summer? Isn't it like over 100? It can be.
Don't touch the steel. You will burn your hand. I've gotten blisters from touching the steel before.
That's how hot it is, freshman. The steel will burn your hand in summer. Can you imagine working in the middle?
Gloves.
Gloves.
Lots of water, lots of Gatorade. Yes. It gets hot. And the heat wears you out, especially if you're out doing, okay, I got a prim job. This is what I wear to the office most days. If I'm going to my job sites, I'm going to wear boots, my hard hat, jeans, shirt, safety vest, glasses. But when you're out there, I'm walking around, I'm inspecting things, I'm taking pictures, I'm talking to the crews, I'm walking with my field superintendent. If you're out there for a day, man, I come back, I'm sunburned, I am beat down, my clothes are drenched. In the summer, it wears you down. But, some people love that. I don't mind it, except when then I have to go back to the air-conditioned office and I'm sitting there in wet, stinky clothes. Yeah, it's not so fun. But, with construction, you've got whichever you like. If you like the office environment, you could be an estimator, or you could do what I do when you're half in, half out of the office. There's a lot of range of things that you can do. For example, to walk you through the whole process, before my company even starts the job, somebody's got to go out and find a piece of land, either an empty piece of land that has nothing on it but trees and weeds, or that has an old abandoned building, or one that they're going to repurpose. That's the developer. They go out and they find the lot. Then you have to have an owner that's willing to do something with that. And then they go to, where do they get, what do you need to build something?
Okay, don't be shy, freshman.
Money. So you got a lender, you've got a banker, you got to have the money to get started, to pay the design team, to pay for all your permits, to pay for the city's impact fees, to pay me. And so there's another branch that kind of borders on construction, but is totally different. And then if these lenders or the banks, or sometimes it's private lenders, people get together, put their money in, they want to make sure that I'm doing my job and everybody under me is doing my job, so they'll hire an inspector. Inspector has to know something about construction because they go out, they look at the job and say, yeah, this pay application, yeah, they've got that much in place, or the materials are on site, or they built as much as they're billing for, they're okay to pay. So that's another small but yet very important part of the whole process. And then after they get the money to build it, they need the design team. They need the architect, they need the designer, interior designer, they need the structural engineer, the civil engineer that does all of the platting and the easements and utility design, and the mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers. That whole group comprises the design team. Very important, because they've got to put the specifications and the drawings together before it even comes to us to send out to all the subcontractors and different trades to bid. Once we get the bid put together and the owner says, yep, bank's funding it, we're good to go, let's start construction, then it has to go to the city permit process, plan review. Those are all, a lot of times, especially the inspectors that come out once we start the job from the city, they're all tradesmen, the plumbers, the electricians, the mechanical inspectors. They're all people that know the craft, but have decided to go a little bit different route. Instead of going out every day and doing hands-on, they went to the city and applied to become an inspector. So they have to know all the codes and the rules and regulations to know whether or not what we're putting in is correct and safe for everybody. So once we do get awarded the job and we're getting ready to start, that's where my role picks up. I get the drawings and all of the proposals from all the different crafts and the trades, and I have to go through them and do what we call buyout. That's when we go through and select all the trades and the contractors that are going to be actually doing the work. And then I put together the contracts, negotiate those with them, and then issue the contracts, and then turn them over to the superintendent, because the field superintendent is the one that actually manages the day-to-day work on the job site of building the buildings. My team, I have myself, my superintendent, and I have a different one on every job that I'm over, and then my assistant PM who works with me, and his role is, like when I'm on vacation, he basically takes over for me and makes decisions. He also, his primary role is also to handle the submittals, which are all the product data sheets and all the information that each of the trades send in that we review, make sure that they meet, one, what we bought out in the contract, what is on the drawings and in the specifications from the design team, and fits what we're supposed to be putting into the building. Once he reviews it, he sends it on to the design team for them to review and make sure that it's correct. Then after he gets it back from the design team, then he'll send it out to that subcontractor that's buying and installing the materials, as well as any other of the trades that need to be coordinated with. For example, if he gets a door frame hardware submittal, he checks them to make sure the wall widths are correct, the door openings are right, the swings are correct, they have the right hardware. When that submittal comes back, he'll send it not only to the door and hardware supplier that's actually going to send the material out, He's also sending it to the mason. If the mason has to set any of those frames in his walls, he sent it to the framer because the framer has to install the frames in those walls that he's building. And then he also has to send it to the door and hardware installer so that they know what they're going to end up putting in each opening. Each opening has a different door, different hardware set, and so forth. So he has to make sure that everybody gets coordinated, and then the superintendent, once they get to the job site, takes that same information and then makes sure it gets put in correctly. Another big component of my project, or my role, is to put together the construction schedule with the superintendent. And that tells everybody when they need to have their stuff ready to go and be on site and how much time they get to install their stuff. Now, we put that together along with the subcontractors as we get those signed up, because in essence, I can tell them how much time they have, but since I'm not doing the work, they also have to have a say in it. So that is a negotiated thing. Sometimes we don't have a lot of room. The owner will say, you have 180 days to build this. And if it's really gonna take 210 days, working a 40-hour work week, then we've got to find ways to either one, go to the owner and say, sorry, you're not gonna get it, or more than likely, because owners don't like to hear that, we've got to figure out a way to make it happen. And then put it into place, whether that's paying more to get materials there on time, or as I mentioned, a lot of times now, just because everything is just, there's so much going on, we're working 6-7 days a week, which is good if you're hourly because you get a lot of overtime. If you're on salary, it doesn't matter. You work when you work. It's all paid the same. So that's some things to keep in mind. When you select a career, there are some that are more likely to be an hourly position versus a salary position. And there's benefits to both, but a lot of people don't realize that when you make the transition from an hourly to a salary, there's not really the same cap on hours. You don't get overtime necessarily on a salary position. Sometimes the benefits are better, but again, make sure you find out. I mean, that's just part of your due diligence when you accept a position at any job that you do, whether it's be a part-time job at McDonald's or Arby's, there's pros and cons to everything. Let's see, once we get the job underway, as I said, the field superintendent, his role is vital in construction. Whereas I handle more of the paperwork and the long-range planning, like a month or more out, he's looking at what needs to happen every day. For example, on our schedule, if we had 10 days to frame all the walls inside of the building, sits down with that crew and says, you've got 10 days. How much do you need to have done by the end of this week to stay on track? How much do you need to have done today to stay on track? It's his job to make sure that those subcontractors are getting the materials out to the job site and that they are keeping pace with where they need to be. Because if that crew falls behind, then every other crew that needs to be done after them then is put behind, such as the electrician who's got to run all the wire in the walls that they got to have framed, or the plumber who's got to run the piping down the walls, or, it just goes on and on and on. And if he doesn't get that done, then none of those trades get done. Then guess what? We can't call the city inspector to come out because nobody's done. And then the painter gets moved out, and then the flooring guy. And so it's really critical that everybody pays attention to the schedule, and it is an effort that, it's a daily battle, really, is what it is, because a lot of things happen. People don't show up, materials don't show up, it's hot out, everybody has to, take 10-minute break every hour because they gotta drink water, they gotta stay hydrated, safety factors. So, that is a challenging role. But it can pay well too, because there's a lot of responsibility and stress that goes with a field superintendent's position.
So if someone gets upset because the job's not getting done, freshman, who do you think the company calls and says, why is our building not ready? Who do you think they call? Who do they call? Yep.
Me.
She's, what was your job title again? You're the,
Senior project manager.
okay, senior project manager. That's who they're gonna call and kind of maybe not be so pleasant.
Yes.
Okay, so like she said, more money you make, but you also have more responsibility and you have to take the heat if something doesn't get done. So like something happens here at senior high, they're gonna call Mr. G, Mr. Gilbertson. Okay, just like that for her.
Yes. So even though I don't do the work directly, it's all my fault if it goes wrong, because I'm responsible. And it's like that, and it's not just my job, it's a lot of positions. The higher you go, the more responsibility you have, the less of the work you're actually doing that you're responsible for. So you rely on everybody else. You know, you have to be able to delegate, trust those people, but follow up, make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to do, because ultimately, I'm the one that's responsible. If my APM makes, doesn't do something that I've asked him to do or that is his responsibility, it's not his fault. It comes to me, and then it's my responsibility to go and get it fixed.
So time management is critical. Freshmen, if you're thinking about what are some skills you need to be able to have, okay, when things are due, okay, you gotta get them turned in. That's why when we ask you to do an assignment, like, this is the due date, that's when you're working, like for her, those are so important to hit, make sure you hit those due dates.
And it goes up and down, and this is, you don't realize how important a lot of things are that you learn in high school until you're way gone
Yeah.
past it. The biggest, one of the big jokes you always hear is everybody always waits, in college until the last week. You get an assignment at the first of the semester, but when does everybody do it? 2 days before. That's just the way people are. That's the way people are. But that's a big part of my job. That's a big part of any manager's job, not just in construction, is looking at, okay, I've got 4 months. Divide it down. And you can do this with goals and your personal goals too. You've got this big picture goal. Okay, by the time I get to be a junior, I'm going to decide what I want to do for my first career out of college or out of high school. You don't have to go to college for some jobs now. But then you're like, okay, well, if I'm looking 4 years, well, now you're down to 3 because you're almost done freshman. So in 2 years, I have to have this done to be closer to that. In 1 year, by the end of my sophomore, I have to be to this point, and then from there, okay, first semester of my sophomore year, where do I need to be? That's a big part of my job, is looking long range. Okay, if this is a 180-day job, all right, well, what are the milestone points? What are the key things that if we miss that date, we're not gonna make that end date? And you have to know those up front. You have to have those little gauges up front, kind of like when that bell goes off, the 30, that I know I'm halfway through the thing. Okay, where am I at? You have to have mile markers. If you're running a race, if you're in track, you've got little mile markers that you're watching for to keep yourself on path. So, use that as you're going through high school. Just because you get to your senior year, okay, if you try and decide what you want to be, pick one thing. You can always change later if you're not sure. But you've got to be pacing yourself. Let's see. So my daily typical day, there's not really a typical day. It flows more along like where we are in the project, since I've already talked about the beginning of the job, like in the middle of the job. Once the job's going, the superintendent's handling a lot of the day-to-day. Contracts are gone, submittals are coming in. We're going through just normal question and answer. Is it timeout? Do I need to tap everything out again?
Yeah.
Okay, because I won't use that until I get closer to the end. Thank you. During the course of a project, there's meetings with the owners and the design team a lot. And if you have jobs that you travel to, like I have one in Austin, that's a whole day trip for me. It's three hours down, and I have another meeting that I stop for. So I'm there 3 hours, on the road for 6. Kind of wipes you out a little bit, just sitting in the car traveling.
You know where Mrs.
She's in the back car. We took her out, she's gone.
We buried her in the cement.
So a lot of my day is spent coordinating with the level I'm at, and then following up and making sure everybody else on my team has what they need to do their job and is getting their job done. And then also, and this is one of the more frustrating things for me, I deal with a lot of other people's problems. Once it gets to the point that somebody else can't handle it, or just they need somebody to step in and help them, then it comes to me. Now, I also have people over me that, I mean, there's some things that just get too, I don't know, what legal needs to get involved, or the owner's just so upset, or you have personality conflicts. Sometimes people just can't get along. You know, somebody else has to step in and help out because there's disagreements, there's arguments, tensions are high or whatever. That's probably what I don't like the most about mine is since I'm not doing stuff myself, I get a lot of carryover where I have to help other people. I like helping other people, it's the problems, because then you've got to do forensics, you've got to figure out why it got to where it did, how to fix it, how to get it going forward. Unfortunately, you can't see a lot of that coming, and so you just deal with it. And a lot of that is on the city side too, with code issues and problems when we call for inspections. Things that we weren't even aware of, the inspector come out and red tag us, which is not good, means you can't do anything more until you fix that problem. For example, we have one on our job, the inspector came out, we have all of our underfloor piping brought in, and the inspector said, nope, this isn't the way it needs to be. I'm like, well, it's how it's shown on the drawings, we put it in. The inspector says, nope, that's not the way I read the code. You have to do this or this. The jobs, that basically was one of the things that shut our job down. We can't do anything more until the design team and the city fix it or decide how they want to fix it and tell us. And then we have to price it, send it to the owner. The owner gets a bill, he's got to approve it, and then we go rip all that out and we put it in the way the inspector wants it. Those are the kind of problems that I end up having to deal with and work through with the different departments in the cities. So another key thing that especially as a project manager, whether it's construction or anything else that you need to be able to do is talk to and communicate with a lot of different people that do things different than what you do. For example, the city inspectors, the design team owners, and everybody has their own agenda of what they're trying to accomplish, which doesn't always match up with what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build a building, the owner's trying to get people moved in, and the city's trying to just, sometimes I don't know. But you have to be able to coordinate all these people and sit down and get everybody all on the same page. And that's a lot of what I spend my time doing, is just going back and forth between all the different groups involved in building, getting something built and making sure everybody's working towards one common goal. Let's see. I'm trying to think, it seems like there's something else I had on the list that you guys were supposed to get. Okay, so here's some of the photos. This one here is you can see the steel frame. Am I blocking it from anybody? The two buildings on the left are eateries. I think one's a chicken place, and then I'm not sure what the other one is, and then Blue Mesa on the other side. This is part of the shopping complex that we built outside of Dallas. We're currently framing the building. The steel erectors are out there working, and part of the slab in the center is in. This is the same building a little bit later. The roofers, as you can see, have their material stocked on the roof and are starting to install the roof. And the framers have all infilled with their gauge metal framing, and they have the sheathing and waterproofing going up on the outside. One of the things that I really like about my company, it's grown quite a bit. I've been there for 15 years, And we started out as a fairly small company just working in Dallas. I did mostly interior renovations, which ranged between $100,000 to $300,000, a lot of medical office space finish out. We currently have about 80 some people working for our company. And keep in mind, we just manage the process. We don't do much of the hands-on. So we're about 80 people now across several states in the South. And we're still like kind of like a big family. We do a lot of extracurricular things together. This particular one was we sponsored a booth at a community fair for kids so they can learn more about construction. And we're talking like real kids here. As you can see, we have the sand tubs and stuff there. And another thing that we've done, I think we're on the 3rd year now, is partner with some of our architect companies, firms that we work with, and the SPCA. This is a fundraiser. We design and build quirky, unique dog houses, and then it's voted on. They display these in one of the local malls, and people come and vote on which ones they like the best. This one was actually the first one we did, I believe, and we won. And then after they have the presentation, then they will auction these off to make money for the SPCA. So it's kind of a multi-purpose thing. It gets our name out there for publicity. Plus, it's also a fundraiser, and we get to work with some of our design teams outside of just construction projects. Although this one, we spent quite a while building this one. We had several prototypes in the back of the shop. And our company encourages us to do this kind of stuff on company time. So, we get to do fun stuff and the company pays for it. This was them receiving their award. One of the big parts of our job is keeping everybody safe. We have weekly job site safety meetings. This is one of them. And what they're talking about on this one is fall protection. If any of you do skydiving or rappelling, you might notice the harness, the body harness. And they're going over proper safety and wear. Also, you can see we've got our guardrails, toe boards up, our scaffolding. Safety is a big part of what we do. Construction, I don't know the statistics on it, but it is one of the more hazardous occupations. We do a lot of safety reminder stuff just because when you do the same thing over and over, it just becomes the norm and you tend to forget how dangerous it could be or how, you just need to pay attention. So we do a lot of things like this just as reminders. And we also do a monthly company-wide safety meeting also. This is a groundbreaking ceremony to start one of our office buildings in South Lake, I believe. Kind of a neat thing. A lot of the city dignitaries come out and the owners and some of the community, and they take a shovel full of dirt to kind of signify just the groundbreaking to start with the construction. This is our company about a year ago. Not everybody's in here because a lot of the superintendents are working out of town or out of state. So this is just the company that we have local. This is a topping out. It's a traditional ceremony that we do mostly for our larger high profile jobs. And it signifies reaching the top level of the building that you're building. Used to hoist a little Christmas tree or evergreen tree to the top. I had one that we did our topping out. It was about Christmas time, so we put a lighted Christmas tree on the top of our building. It was a 7-story building, a little lighted Christmas tree up there. Kind of fun. And again, it's just a chance for the owners and local dignitaries and the construction group to get together and celebrate getting to a milestone. This is the same building. This is a hospital that we built with some medical offices west of Fort Worth in a town called Willow Park. We actually won an award for the construction of this one a few years ago. This is an office complex that I did about 2 years ago in Carrollton, which is just north of Dallas. And in the earlier class, one of the gentlemen had asked about how many trades are involved. And a lot of that depends on how many finishes or what the building looks like on the outside. This one in particular, we have stucco, we have stone, we have brick, we have cast stone, we have the canopies, and then we have the glass. So right there, just for the skin of this building, that was 6 different trades that had to interact and assemble their stuff together. This building was also unique in the ones that I have done because it was styrofoam. Normally don't think of buildings being made out of styrofoam, but with all the upgrades to the energy codes and the energy conservation and, just sealing up the building so the air-conditioned air doesn't escape, they tried replacing all of the wood on the exterior, usually with stuff like plywood or chipboard. They got rid of all of that and used like a 2-inch styrofoam that had waterproofing and radiant barrier. So it was an all-in-one combined structural, sheathing, waterproofing, and insulation all together. The problem with that was, though, the styrofoam is pretty soft, and so guys with the tool belts and stuff, the hammers and saws and screwdrivers, they'd be walking by and their tools would be swinging, it'd kick out and knock a hole in the styrofoam. So every day, at the end of the day, the field superintendent had his little bucket of cookie that we called it cookie. It was like waterproofing mastic and his paintbrush, and he'd go out around the building and get up in the lift, and he'd be covering up all these little holes that were in the outside of the building, because if we didn't, when we went to put all the brick and everything on, water gets behind brick. It just weep into the building. So this building was a big learning curve, and I hope I don't ever have to build another styrofoam building again, because it really was a pain. But it just shows, codes are constantly changing, and how things are built are changing. The technology and the products that they keep inventing are just phenomenal. Every year they come out with new products that they've invented out of chemicals to better improve how our buildings are built, to make them more energy efficient. And the whole energy efficiency thing is a whole other branch of construction that just, it's become so important as we try to save more of our fossil fuels and more of the energy and just make buildings better for us. I'll come back to that one. This was an office complex, or no, this was another medical one in Flower Mound, which is north of Irving. This is a grocery store with 2, Sprouts is called the anchor, which means it's the main grocery store. So if you're in development or you hear people talk, you go to like a mall, there's usually 1, 2, or maybe 3 main anchor stores, and those are the big stores. And then you have all your other little retailers. What the developers try to do is get a major anchor store, which is Sprouts, and then on either side, the left and the right of that main grocery store building, then they've got space for other smaller retails. Each one of these had up to 5. I think this one, we finished it a year ago, and I think they've got, the last tenant is finishing, so they've got a Dennis, they've got a Domino's Pizza, they've got a pet, like a pet store, pet food, pet supply store. They've got an eye doctor, a nail salon, and then I think it's some cellular phone company's going into the other one. So they've got a mix of stuff. But that's what the developers try to do. They go out and they try to get all these people to come into the buildings that we build, because a lot of times we'll build them and there's nobody that's set to occupying yet. So that's part of the developer's job, is go out and find people to put in those buildings as we're building them and lease them out. This is a emergency room facility. This was a repeat customer of ours. I've built 5 of these, I believe, in Texas. They have it in several places around the country. And this is one where they have, I believe it's 5 prototypes, which are 5 basic floor plans, but every single one of them I was done has been different. So in construction, there is no such thing as building the same building twice. It can vary because even like these emergency rooms, they have the same equipment, they do the same number of exam rooms, they have the same requirements to go in them, but each city might have different requirements for what the outside looks like that they have to meet, or the sites are different sizes, or, you know, there's just so many variables that you never, ever build the same building twice. The site might be different, or there's different things you've got to do to get utilities to it. This one, not this one, there was two that we did that were on old gas stations. And so before we could even start construction with those, we had to tear down the gas stations. The owner paid for a specialized company to come in, remove all the fuel tanks. We had to test the soil to make sure it wasn't contaminated. It always is, according to EPA anyway. And so then we had to take any dirt that we removed from the site and we had to take it to a special facility. So those ended up being a little bit more complicated just because of the extra EPA regulations that we had to meet during the demo and the build back on those. Another grocery store, we've done a few of these. I'm actually finishing one up in Irving right now that is getting set to open. This is an office complex. I believe this one is in South Lake, and this is a concrete structure. So you see all the columns and all of the floor slabs are concrete. And then what they're starting to set here, these little C-shaped pieces are the precast column covers. That's the exposed finish. I have here is the finished building done. So what we did, you can see the column covers over the top of all that other, they put brick, I think this is stucco, and then glass. So they come in after they build the structure, and then all these other trades come in on top of it and finish it out.
Do you remember what you said the last time about how much glass they used? Wasn't it? It was
I think
unbelievable.
it was over $100,000 just in the glass package alone. I don't remember what the total contract on this one was. We did not do any of the finish out. All we did on this was just the shell building. So a lot of the things that we build is just the building, and then as they get all the spaces leased out, then other contractors sometimes come in and do the finish outs for maybe one tenant or two tenants, or maybe they'll do a whole bunch. The most jobs that I ran at one time was 13 jobs, but a lot of those were for the same tenant, same owner, in the same building, just different spaces that maybe totaled $150,000 to $300,000 for doctors' offices. So there might be maybe 2,000 square feet, 5,000 square feet, 7,000 square feet. They're all individual separate jobs. They all have their own group of subcontracts, own contracts, own financials that I had to do, schedules. But it made it easier in a way because it was all one owner, so we had consolidated meetings. Can you imagine trying to go to 13 other meetings in 1 week and still get your work done? It won't happen. There's just not time. Here's another activity. This is similar to Habitat for Humanity. It's a local program where they find people to go in and help usually elderly people that don't have enough money or are physically unable to take care of their house. And once a year they go in and get teams of people to help them. And this one we were repainting and fixing windows in a lady's house. And here's it after we were done. This is one of the medical office finish outs that I did. This was a combination research, eye research lab with had a rat lab in it, actual little rats that they did testing on. And then this part of it was patients. They saw patients and treated patients for eye issues, eye problems, and eye surgeries. And our company also has many extracurricular sports activities. We have a baseball team or a softball team. This is a softball team. We also have a basketball team. And we do three-man competitions in the summer. In Dallas, they have little competitions. We do that. We also have several marathons that we do relay marathons on several times a year. And gosh, what else do we do? Oh, our company pays for a trainer to come in on Mondays, and then we have a basketball league on Wednesday. So we have a lot of fun stuff that we do on company time, just because our company recognizes that we work a lot.
Yeah, stress reliever.
And I hear they're bringing in a yoga stress instructor.
Love it.
Yay, I signed up. So, you know, that's one of the great things about my company is we put in a lot of hours, lots. But they recognize that we get compensated for it, and they try to make it up in other ways too. We also have CSA, community. Somebody like every other Friday goes to a farmer's market, and it's like $10 for a box of fresh vegetables. So we're trying to be more healthy. We're trying to get out and help our community, and we're trying to bring value to other people, which you always have to do if you want something back in return. Keep that in mind. Always bring value. As far as, you know, there's just so many different things in construction that you can do. It doesn't matter if you are good in school, if you like school, if you like working with your hands, if you like building stuff. There's just so many ways that you could go into construction. Does anybody have any questions about any specific routes that you're interested in? Okay, here's a stumper.
Okay. Whoever gets the answer right gets a piece of candy.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Oh, shoot.
This is one of those. So everybody gets.
Okay.
Why wouldn't you want to go to a field of construction? I heard somebody say something. Because why? It's hot? Okay, well, go to work in Alaska in the pipelines. If you like cold weather, I guarantee.
Yeah.
The company I was with before Ridgemont, we started working overseas. Go ahead. Right? You can get hurt, but you can get hurt working in a lot of different fields.
You get hurt being a teacher,
Yes,
like Miss B, right, bring you over.
but that is a reason.
Hey guys, make sure you turn your papers